Hello and welcome to this ArtCAM Express demonstration. In this demonstration I'm going to be using the Relief Clipart library, and I'm also going to show you how to import a relief into ArtCAM Express. We're going to be arranging them together, and we're also going to be machining these. So here you can see what we're going to be creating, which is this sort of medal that I've designed. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to close this model because I want you to take a look on the right hand side here. You can see I have no modules installed within this version of ArtCAM Express, so everything that you're going to be seeing is done using the basic £99, €125 or $149 version of the ArtCAM software. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to create a new model, and I'm going to give it a width of 300, a height of 300, and I'm not really too bothered about the thickness at the moment. And set the origin to the center. I'm going to set the material Z0 to the top and the model position the top of the block. Now I'm not too bothered about this because I'm going to delete the material anyway, because it's going to get in the way of the design process just at the start here. So I'm just going to OK that. If I go to the 3D view, you can see it's set up my material. So what I'm going to do is just go to toolpaths and delete the material. Go back to the 2D view now, and here I can start creating my design. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to click here for Relief Clipart library. And if I take a look through this Relief Clipart library, if I just click here under Reliefs, you'll see all of the Relief Clipart library, and we have over 500 pieces of 3D work that you can import into your designs within ArtCAM Express. Now this is not an add-on or a module. You don't have to pay any more money for this. This is already included within the basic version of ArtCAM Express. So here you can see we have sign bases, for instance, we have crests, we also have frames, greenery, we also have objects, for instance. Now what I'm going to do is come up to the frames folder here, and I'm going to choose this piece of clip art here. So I'm just going to select it, and here you can see it gives me a 2D preview of this. If I click this button here, that will center the piece within the model, and I'm just going to make this a lot larger so it fits nicely within the sheet. So there you can see that that's changed the sizes there. I also have the sizes here on the top right, which I could just enter sizes for this if I wish to. Also have the Z height there. Now I'm not going to change that, even though I want this to just be 10mm high. I'm going to show you how I can do that afterwards. So I'm going to click paste, and I'm going to close the relief dialog box. Now if I click here for preview relief, that will show me a preview of the relief within the 2D view. If I click the 3D view, there you can see the relief within the 3D view. So what I'm going to do with this is change the height of it. So if I click here for scale relief, just move this to the right here, you can see at the moment the height of this particular relief is 17.032. I'm going to change that to 10 and then just click apply. So that's knocked the height of that down to 10mm. I could also do that by volume. So if I wanted to, let's say for instance, add shrinkage onto a part, I could do that using the volume. So I'm just going to close that, go back to the 2D view. Now if I select this slider bar here, you can see it slowly changes the transparency of the previewed relief. So what I'm going to do is just import this leaf frame here. Here you can see it's much larger than my model at the moment, so I'm going to center that, and I'm going to make this smaller. So I'll move that down to around about there, and I need to just make sure that it's sitting within the original relief that I brought in. So that looks okay at the moment. I'm going to change the Z height of that because it's a little bit high at the moment, so I'll change that to 1. Click apply for it to take effect. Now at the moment I've not explained about the combine mode. So we've got add, we've got highest, subtract and lowest. So if I were to add this, it would just add the relief on top of what's already there, what relief is already there. If I select highest, it will merge the two reliefs together. Now I know that the underlying relief is 10mm high, so if I were to add this 1mm frame on top of this, it would just add a height of 1mm. If I were to click highest and do it, it wouldn't actually do anything because it's only 1mm high. It's not higher than the 10mm original relief, so it wouldn't actually do anything. So I need to make sure that this is add and click paste. Now if I close that and go to the 3D view, you can see that it's added my leaf frame around there. So what I'm going to do now is just close the relief Clipart library, and I want to show you how to import a relief that you have saved on your computer. Now you can do this in two ways. You can do it by either holding down the left mouse button over Relief Clipart Library and we have Paste Relief from a file, or you can go up to Reliefs and then Import. So that opens up a dialog box, and if you click Load, here you can see I have a Wyvern relief file which I'm going to import into this model. So I'm going to click Open. Now you can see it's done exactly the same thing for me. Just going to make this smaller, let's say to round about there. I can move that down, let's say move it down to there. Let's make it a little bit larger, move that back up. Now as you can see, this is all overlapping the leaves, so I need to make sure that I've got merge highest on this time. This is because I want this to actually blend into the leaves. If I were to select add, it would just add the leaves on top of the wyvern. So with highest selected, I'm going to click paste and I can close that now. If I go to the 3D view, you can see, if I just hover over, let's say here, you can see it's just merged in nicely with the leaves there. So here you can see slowly building up our part. So just to sum up with the Relief Clipart library, there are over 500 reliefs in there, all free within ArtCAM Express for you to use. ArtCAM Express, you cannot create any 3D work with that. The only thing that you can do 3D wise is bring in reliefs and you can scale them up or down, and you can make components like I have just done here. So what I'm going to do now is go back to the 2D view, and the first thing that I'm going to do is to, let's just zoom in here on the scroll, and I'm just going to quickly create an arc. So if I just hover over here, and let's just make this around about the same size as this scroll, so it's just the same size radius there. And what I'm going to do is create some text. Here you can see all of the fonts available to me within ArtCAM. Now these are all the fonts that are installed on my particular computer, so ArtCAM automatically sees all of these fonts and you can use these within your designs. So I'm going to use this font. I'm going to use a size of 10mm. I can enter whatever size I want in there, and I'm just going to do this over here, and I'm going to type in For Glory and then click done. Now what I'm going to do is do this text on a curve here, so I want this wrapped around this curve. So if I select the text and then shift select the arc that I created, I'm going to left click, hold it down so it pulls out a flyout menu, and I'm going to select wrap text around a curve. Here you can see that that's wrapped that text around this curve. Now I can move that around like so. So let's say I want that to be there. I can move this above the line, below the line, baseline. I can center it. I'm going to keep this above line. I'm going to move it down. Let's say move it like so to there. I can change the text spacing of this if I wished. I could move the whole sentence as you just saw, or I could also move single words. So let's just move the glory like so, or I could use single letters and move just the single letters like so. So I'm going to click OK there, and I can delete that arc. So what I'm going to do now is create a rectangle around this text. So let's create a rectangle like so, and I'm going to center this just so I know that this is in the center, and just move that down to around about there. What I'm going to do now is do what we call node editing, because I want this to be a curve. I don't want this to be a straight rectangle. I want it to follow the curve of this text. So if I click here, this takes us into node editing. Now you can see if I just turn off the preview relief, you can see here on the four corners we have nodes. What I can do is just move those and it alters the shape. So if I just undo that, here you can see in the middle of these two nodes we have midpoints. That's because I have these turned on. And what I can do with those is just grab them and they turn into nodes like so. So if I select both of those and I right click and then select smooth nodes, that will smooth the nodes into Bezier curves. So I can select both of those and select maintain smooth curves just so it maintains a smooth curve, and I'm going to move those upwards like so, so it creates a curve. I'm also going to move, let's say for instance, that in there just so it adds a little bit of perspective like so. Let's move this one out a little bit. Okay, so that looks fine like so. Just preview the relief again, make sure that it's all within the boundary of the scroll. Now the reason that I've done this is if I go to the 3D view, just rotate this around and you take a look at this scroll. If you take a look at the Z value just down the bottom right here, as I hover over you can see a Z value. If I just hover over the scroll you can see that this is changing. So over here it's about 2.1 in the Z, and if I come up to the top you can see it's 3mm. So there's actually a gradient on the top of this scroll. So if I were to do the V-bit carving, which I'm going to do for this text, it would actually be a lot deeper on the R and the G than it would be on the Y and the F. So it wouldn't look as though it was a uniform bit of V-bit carving. So what I need to do is create a flat within this particular area. So if I just zoom out, what I'm going to do now is to do some machining for this. So if I click on toolpaths, I'll just turn off the vectors for the moment and click on toolpaths. Opens up all of the toolpaths available to ArtCAM Express down the bottom right hand side. What I'm going to do is a 3D toolpath, a machine relief toolpath. Just move that over to the right hand side so you can see. I'm going to do this over the whole of the relief. Choose a cutter. Let's choose a 1.5mm ball nose cutter. Now you can change these if you wish. These are all the default cutters in there. You can just copy and then edit and place in there the cutters that you have available to you, so you're not limited by what is in this particular database. So these are just the default tools that are in the database. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to do a raster so it's just going to go in X and Z. The roughing options, I'm going to choose the largest cutter that I have, the 12mm, and just going to change the step down to about 2mm. So you can edit all of the parameters available in here: step over, step down, feed rate, plunge rate, spindle speed, and also the tool number if you have a tool changer. So I'm going to define the material, set the Z0 to the top. The material thickness is 11mm. I'm going to just add a millimetre onto this at the bottom, so I'm going to change it to 11mm, and I'm going to click calculate now. So this is working out the roughing toolpath, just generating the slices. There you can see the roughing toolpath finished, and this is just generating the finishing toolpath for me. So that's the machine relief finished. If I wish to turn these toolpaths in red off, just click the light bulb at the top here. If I wish to just see one of these toolpaths, just click, say for instance, the roughing, and just turn that on or off. I can zoom in, take a look at where it's actually cutting. So I'm just going to turn that off for the time being, and what I'm going to do now is to create an area clearance. So basically I want to create a pocket here. So if I go back to toolpaths and select area clearance toolpath, now just need to see what the depth is around about here. So I want the finished depth to be, let's say, around about 7.5mm. Just take a look at the Z down the bottom right hand side, you can see it's 7.4. So let's do the finished depth at 7.5. And I'm going to add a cutter, let's say a 6mm end mill, and I'm going to calculate that. So that's created a pocket for me just there, and it's just levelled all of that area off. Just turn those off, and I'm going to create a V-bit carving now. Over the selected vectors, the start depth is going to be 8mm, and I'm going to choose a small V-bit here. If I click here, that will give me the maximum depth that it's going to cut at, and I'm going to click calculate now. So what I'm going to do now is simulate all of this. So if you click here to simulate all toolpaths, it will give me a simulation of what's going to be cut at the machine. So there you can see it's just done all the roughing toolpath, and now it's simulating the finishing toolpath for me. Okay, so that's my toolpaths done. Now if I just zoom in a little bit on the wyvern, you can see I've got these marks, these cutting marks here, and I've got a few on the wyvern. What I'm going to do is just tidy this up a little bit, because I don't really want this when it's finished. I want this to just be machine finished. So what I'm going to do is create another machine relief toolpath, and if I just zoom out, turn on the vectors, and I'm going to select the outside vector because I don't want to go over the whole of the relief for this. So I'm going to do it within the selected vectors to act as a boundary. I'm going to use the same 1.5mm ball nose cutter. This time I'm going to change the angle to 90 degrees so it cuts in the YZ direction, and I'm going to click calculate now. I'm now going to close the machine relief dialog box. I can turn off the toolpaths, and I'm just going to right click on the machine relief number 1 and simulate just that toolpath. Now if I just zoom in here, let's say just on the wing, you can see when it gets here that It's going to give me a lot nicer finish because I'm going in both of the directions machining this. So here you can see all of the marks there. You can see it's getting rid of that. You can also see it's giving me a much better finish on the wings here. So it's not giving me all of these little cutter marks here. So that's the piece complete. What I'm going to do now is just select the simulation and I'm going to change the material to a different colour. So let's try 24 karat satin finish. So there you can see that that's changed the material to that particular colour. Now if I wanted to save this to send to a customer, what I can do is go up to Window and save a 3D view image. Go into my folder and I'm going to select, I'm going to call this for Glory, and I'm going to save this as a 3D PDF. So what this will do, it will save it as a 3D PDF and you can send this to your customer for approval before you've actually machined the part. They will not need ArtCAM to read this. All that they will need will be able to read PDFs, and they'll be able to take a look at the part and give you approval before machining it. So it's quite a useful feature. So if I now open up my folder and double click on the PDF, you can see that that's opened up a 3D image of the file. You can rotate that around, you can zoom in and out to take a look at it. So you could send this to your customer to take a look at. So I'm going to close that now, go back to ArtCAM, and I'm just going to finally show you how to save the toolpaths. So if I click on toolpaths and then click on save toolpaths, just move these over to the left hand side. Now what you can do with this is to, if you had the tool changer, is to move all of these toolpaths to the right hand side to be posted. Select your tool changer from the post list and then just click save. If you didn't have a tool changer and have a single headed machine, what you can do is, let's say for instance, use the machine relief roughing, move that over to the right hand side, select your post from the list available here. Now ArtCAM comes with well over 200 posts already installed with ArtCAM Express, so you're more than likely to find your machine here. If not, we also have a generic G code which you may have some success in running your machine. So I'm just going to use the generic G code and I'm going to save that within my folder. Let's save it as 100 and then click save. Now that's saved within my folder, so if I open that up you can see I have this 100 tap file here, and there you can see the G code generated ready for me to send to my machine. So that brings an end to the demonstration. I hope that you found it useful, and thank you for your time and thank you for watching. Goodbye.